Coming up on this episode of the Hitstreak.
People want people in a relationship.
Yeah.
We can use all those other things to automate some things and make it easier, but if we lose the human connection, we lose everything that matters.
Here is how Dr. Aaron Pryor changed my life. I used to hide my smile, covering my mouth in photos, holding back in conversations, even avoiding big moments. I didn't realize how much it was holding me back until I got my brand new veneers at Pryor Family Dentistry. It's not just my teeth. It's my confidence, my energy, my entire life. Visit PryorFamilyDentistry.com to book a consultation. Your life-changing smile awaits. Whoa, 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 whoa. Check this out. Some of the world's biggest success stories started with nothing. Just grit, hustle, and a story worth hearing. If you've got a story that people need to hear, this is your shot. If you've been through the fire and came out stronger, you belong on this show. Email management@nickhyder.com or comment or DM the word Hitstreak to apply. The Hitstreak is where rags to riches stories have been told, and the next one could be yours. Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I got somebody I'm extremely excited to really get to know better right here live with you today. I met him and his amazing wife and even their beautiful daughters in 2025. Let's just say I'm a fan and I look up to this guy. So we're going to have a good old time, man. Check it out. Let me give him a proper introduction, okay? He's known as a extremely sought-after communication strategist. All right, he's a 2-time best-selling author. He is a keynote speaker. You've seen him on stages all over the world. He is the co-host of the Turned On podcast, the co-founder of Speak Up. And again, we met him through Dr. Christina and Clayton over at Root Brands, where him and his wife are doing some amazing things. Folks, give it up for David Norrie. David, thank you, baby.
Hey, Nick, it is great to be here. I tell you what, I always go back to this old guy on the radio who said, if I was doing any better, I would be a twin. So I'm happy to be here. I am in the studio. I'm excited to talk to you. I'm excited for this conversation because I know we have a lot in common. Let's go.
So you said if I was any better, I'd be twins. My dad says that all the time. I still don't know what it means.
I
still don't know what it means.
I just thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know exactly what it means, but it sounds good. And I'm glad your dad said it. All right.
He did. It sounds like a Double Mint gum commercial to me.
Hey, I'm down with that. I always wanted a twin. I think that would be some cool. We get into probably too much trouble. Me, as a younger man, if I had a twin, too much trouble. So
Facts.
It's a good thing I'm not.
Yeah, the world didn't need 2 of me. It would have been horrible.
Oh, tell me about it, bro.
Well, are you zeroed in?
I am zeroed in, actually. 20 minutes before, so I'm ready to go.
Me too. I had I popped my last one right before I drove in today, and oh yeah, it's like so. Folks, you guys all know Zero In with the Root Brands. I'm a huge fan. I take the whole line.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I take the entire line. The coffee is like next level. Yep. So when did you guys? How did you get introduced to the Root Brands?
Oh, this is a great story. It's ironic because in 2023, unfortunately, my dad passed, and he passed suddenly in our backyard. And that was right a couple years after something major happened in the world. What was, like as Clayton would say, what was that happened right around 2020, 2021 that would maybe contribute to somebody passing suddenly? Mm-hmm. Right? We know. And so I remember, I still have it on my phone, is just an audio. You know, when you're hearing something important, I put my phone down and I'm like, record this. And that was Clayton. My wife had gotten introduced to Clayton, and he was talking all about mRNA and all this stuff and how to clean it, and and then when we moved here, we had lunch with him, or we had coffee the first time. And I was like, this guy's unique, right? Very eccentric. I didn't know what to make of him. And he just kind of courted us over the last couple of years. And we would come down to the office, and it was never the right time. I was consulting for other companies and doing some things. And then, man, at the end of 2025, it was just, we're ready. It's the right time.
Yeah.
So we came on board. My wife, Angelique, and I are in charge of North American expansion and marketing. So we are super excited. This is what we do. This is our jam.
Well, I can't get over the quality of the product line. I started taking the full line. I took Zero In first. That's like the greatest nootropic on planet Earth. It's a great entry to barrier. I fell in love with it immediately.
Yep.
And from then, Clayton was like, try this one, try that one. I think I tried the Performance Pack first.
Yep.
And then we incorporated what was left of the Trinity Pack in there, and then the peptides and everything else after that. But like, David, check this out. So I started taking the entire line in April, okay? So like clockwork, I'm one of those guys that gets sick at the same 3 times of the year, and it's always fatigue. It's a cycle,
Yep.
right? I
Got
just
it.
burn it to nothing, sleep for 2 days, I'm ready to roll. I didn't get sick last year. So the moment I started taking the line, I didn't get sick. But what was wild is when we had the big ice storm earlier this year and all the shipping stuff got delayed, my root brands got delayed 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I went 2 weeks without it for the first time in almost a year. I got sick.
Interesting.
I did. I literally got sinuses, cold, like everything all the symptoms that had totally gone away from the product line. And I'm talking like, I go hard, right?
Yeah,
Just like you. 18, 20 hours a day, that's just normal. And like, it's amazing how good I felt. I was in the best shape of my life last October when we went there since playing pro ball. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable, dude. But again, just like our whole family takes it, and they're hardly ever sick either.
Well, here's the cool thing. So my wife and we've been in wellness, what we call wellness, since all of our lives. We've been married 15 years. Actually, yesterday was our 15th year anniversary.
Oh, man, happy anniversary.
And we've always been in health and wellness. But even before I met my wife, I wrote a column for the St. Pete Times. It's one of the 7 largest papers in the country at the time in terms of circulation. It's out of Florida. And I had a weekly column. It was called Gimme 10. And I had carte blanche to talk about whatever I want.
Oh, hold on. Give me 10?
Give me 10, like 10 push-ups. Give me 10.
Dude, give me 10 minutes. I love that.
Yeah.
Holy.
So that was the name of my column.
That's a content series for you.
And it ran for years, and I had the ability to talk about whatever I wanted. So I covered everything from detecting early heart disease to high colonics to working out as a couple. And I think I even did a 3-part series on birthing, consulting an OBGYN. But here's where it's cool. My wife and I have been in business for 15 years together, almost all of our marriage. And our mantra, Nick, what we live by, what we've been saying for years, and we tell everybody, and I just told Christine and Clayton this yesterday, I go, we do not embellish, we do not sensationalize, because a lot of times, especially nowadays, people will embellish and sensationalize, and I think the public has their BS meters set to high. So I'm going to tell you something now, unembellished, unsensationalized, and the reason I say that is because we've worked and consulted for a lot of companies. And when you come into a new product line, you're like, well, I like it. I like the science, but I got to see if it works. Mm-hmm. We're not going to represent anything that doesn't work. And I think a lot of people like that. If I'm going to recommend something, I want to be able to give you my testimonial. So here's the thing. I do a lot of high-intensity training, a lot of push-ups, a lot of jumping jacks. Jump rope is my big thing.
Okay.
So with the Zero-In product, this is the best thing I can tell you how to explain it.
Let's go.
In my 20s, I used to take ephedra because I was invincible. And I would, between sets, I'd be a caged lion, just walking back and forth, heart rate, bum, bum, bum. But now I have 3 kids, right? I'm in my 50s. The last thing I want to do is take any stimulant like that. So I take Zero-In as my pre-workout.
Yep.
I do a lot of jumping rope. Here's the cool part. When I'm jumping rope, the rope is not touching the floor. Like my proprioception, all I hear is the distance between my feet and the floor where the rope goes, I can't even hear it because I'm that dialed in. And I'm feeling good. Here's the best part, though. I'm cranking Led Zeppelin in the garage, and I'm so dialed in, I can hear the ball bearings in the jump rope.
Okay.
So it's a level of focus. And then when I got into my squats, nobody really loves doing squats, but I'm doing the squats, and I'm like, I'm actually in a good place. Like normally if I'd stop at rep 10, I'm on rep 15 and I'm like, I'm feeling really good. So I think it's a level of focus and intensity that most people aren't used to. And that's the cool part. And that's just one of the stories.
It's wild because again, I'm like you. I think I've tried pretty much everything out there over the last 20 years. And that movie, the Limitless Pill with Bradley Cooper, that's the closest thing I can think of it. When we were in the bar scene back in the day, Adderall was everywhere, and that was like just normal to stay up till 4 a.m. So I've even had little doses of that. but all the side effects are horrific. And
But let me tell you about that. I'm glad you brought it up. Honest to God, today. So I've had 3 people. I can show you the text messages. Oh my gosh, I've been on Adderall for 4 years. I quit it cold turkey.
Yeah.
This Zero In is amazing.
that's right.
Just today, and I tell you, I don't lie, sensationalize, or embellish. I have that text message on my phone from a couple of different people. Now, the one girl, she's out in Arizona. She's been trying to finish this book. And she goes, I've been trying to finish this book for 4 years. She goes, I've been on Adderall. She goes, I quit Adderall. I'm on Zero In. Book's finished. It's off to the copy
Let's
editor.
go.
Right? The other guy, he just found out he's a single dad. He's got a 4-year-old girl. He's got just found out he had a ton of mold in his house. He goes, my whole family says, oh, you're just going through stress. He goes, no, I have brain fog.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been going crazy. He goes, I'm depressed. It's hard for me to get out of bed each day. And this guy is in medical device sales. So he knows bodies. He knows what he's doing. He's been on the Trinity pack for less than 2 weeks. He goes, I feel like a new man. He goes, I haven't had this level of clarity and focus and just the ability to get out of bed in the morning and get started with my day. He goes, I'm sold. I'm telling you. So what that does for me as someone who recently joined a company for North American expansion, it just builds up my level of trust. It builds up my level of belief, right? So I don't have to get out there and say, I think it does this. I don't have to get out there and go, I hope it does this. I have to go out there and go, it does this. Testimonials are key.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's proof, right? Everything's about proof.
Absolutely.
And dude, it's definitely like it's something that my family, we all have in common now. So it's something more that we can even talk about and celebrate with each other. So, even as silly as that sounds, that's something that we all have in common and we all enjoy and we love telling stories about it. So, I told my son, he's an ambassador too, and because he's telling all of his teammates about it and everything else. I was like, Ethan, just be careful how you explain this stuff. I don't want parents calling me up saying, "Hey, man, your son's doing drugs."
No, that's a good point. Because my daughter's high level Taekwondo, and every day before she goes to practice, she goes, "Where's the Zero In?"
Yeah.
Because your proprioception, and here's the key. I have a friend who's an ex-major leaguer, and he owns a pitching academy in Tampa. And I'm saying, if your guys can locate their spots on the plate, the matter of milliseconds.
Yeah.
I was a sports reporter for years, covered the NFL. And I'm looking at the Super Bowl this year. Now, Sam Darnold's not on our product, right? Let me make that clear. But let's just talk about being a quarterback. Sam Darnold's been in the league for 9 years. He's 6'4", I think 225, and he ran a 4.7. So 9 years later, after the combine, he's probably still 6'4", 225.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. He probably still runs less than a 4.7. But he's a much better quarterback now. Why? Not that he's taking our product, but because his ability to recognize defenses, blitzes in a very complex NFL where milliseconds makes a difference.
Yeah.
So we have studies, we have clinical trials of Olympic fencers, which again, your timing and everything.
Yeah.
We have clinical studies where your proprioception, your reaction time. I think this is going to revolutionize the way athletes go about their work. And I told a guy yesterday who is, he has connections to high level, let's just Big Ten, I won't say who it was. And I said, here's what I would tell you to do when you go back to your alumni. I would say, if we learned anything from the Indiana team this year, what did we learn? Were they bigger and stronger than their opponents? No.
Correct.
They were more well coached. They understood the game more.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're going into your alumni association, I'd say take the Trinity pack or just the Zero In and say, give me your 3 best guys, your film nerds, the guys that are in the film room that already get it. Give me the 3 best guys. Let's put them on this for a month or 2. And then give me your 3 worst, the guys that have a hard time focusing in the film room, and put them on that for a month or 2. And I bet you both will improve. But here's the thing I'll ask you. Which group do you think would improve more or would notice it more?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
I think the film nerds would notice it more because these are the guys that are already working at a high level in terms of their cerebral functioning.
Yep.
I think they'll notice, just like I noticed the rope wasn't hitting the ground, just like I could hear the ball bearings. If you're already in tune with something, you're going to notice, because at that level, to improve somebody, that's already an elite athlete to improve them.
Yeah.
And we know everybody can do it with the body.
That's right.
But who's doing it with the amount of focus and concentration?
Yep.
And when you're talking something like you were telling your son, it's endogenously creating the dopamine and the serotonin reception in your stomach. That's where your second brain is. That's where these things are created. So if you can create that, you're going to create excellent athletes, excellent musicians, excellent podcasters.
Absolutely. It's wild how you can just respond, not react, but respond so much more effortless and quick. Like we all have those days where you feel like, man, I'm on it today. Yeah. You can be on it every day, all day.
Yeah.
Pretty much anytime you want. And that's, for me, that's been the big thing. Was for a long time, and I think a lot of folks may feel the same way. They mistake the vitamin for the workout.
Sure.
And all it does is it truly like enhance and where you can get the most out of that workout. You know what I mean? So it's
one of the things, Nick, as we get along today, I'm sure we'll bring it up, but our big thing with Turned On is presence. What we say is presence right now in our culture is missing. People are the inability, because we're in such a short attention span culture, because of the phones, because of everything is just crushing our ability to focus and concentrate. Presence is at a premium for everybody, no matter what line of work you're in. And if you can be more present in your home, if you can be more present at work, if you can be more present on the pickleball courts, you're going to dominate.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where they're going to crush it.
Hi, folks. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and I just want to say a quick thank you for all of you, the millions of you tuning into the Hitstreak. We're literally getting the information from the people that have it to the people that need it by bringing on guests that everybody knows and some that not everybody knows yet. Keep listening, keep sharing, and keep leveling up with the Hitstreak. Let's talk about Turned On. That's that's the podcast that you co-host.
Yep.
What was the what's the mission of the podcast? What's the what was the reason you guys needed that outlet?
Be the light of the world.
Come on.
Be the light of the world. So there's a good story. I'll tell you about the name first. So my wife wanted to do a podcast back in 2018, 19, and I said, let's do it together. I said, we're better together than we are apart. She goes, what do you want to call it? And I said, let's call it Turned On. And she's like, but aren't people going to, think? I go, let them think it. I go, let somebody come to our website looking for it to be turned on, and we're going to give them Jesus. We're going to give them something else. We are a Matthew 5:14. We are the light of the world. We are called to be the light of the world. And where I got that from is because I had been doing a workshop. And there's a famous picture I have of these kids, and they're in a, in the mall, there is the food court. And there's maybe this is at a college. There's maybe 8 or 10 kids in this line. And I just happened to look upon this picture. And out of those 8 or 10 kids in the line, all of them except one are like this.
Yeah.
Looking at their phone. And so when I would do my talks, I would put this picture up on the screen behind me, and I'd ask the audience, I'd say, who here looks turned on? In other words, who here looks like they're up for the relationship? And it was easy. Everybody said it's the girl in the pink shirt. Why is it the girl in the pink shirt? Well, because she's got her head up. She's up for the relationship. She's turned on. So just like when you walked in this studio in the morning, before you do anything, what's the very first thing you have to do?
Got to turn it on, baby.
Got to turn on that light switch. If not, you're running into things. So it's kind of the metaphor. If you're not turned on, if you're not present, if you're not alert, you're going to miss out in your family, at work. You're going to miss out with the Lord. And so turned on is this metaphor where we are going to flip people's switches. And then in a room like this, we look at it as a hallway, because how long have you been married?
We have been married, so Ethan is 16, he was 4, so 12 years.
So the light in year one in your marriage as newlyweds, bright, right? Everything's new, bright light, everything's great. 16 years down the road, you got to keep flipping those switches on. You got to keep flipping those lights on. You got to keep shining light. So we look at life like a hallway, because you can turn on a light in a room and that light stays on. But if you're walking down a hallway, you got to keep flipping lights. You got to keep flipping the switch in your body, right? You're in great shape. Easier now than when you were 20?
No.
Right?
No.
So you got to keep flipping those lights. You do it with zero in, but you just do it with presence and awareness and opportunity, and that's what we're about.
Man, I love that. There's one of the things that attracted my wife to you guys was just, when people think differently, when it stands out, and it's a good thing. And that was, the more we learned about you, the speaking, being on the stages and speak up, but the communication strategist is by far the most intriguing to me, because all the folks that have been on this journey of the hit streak for the last over 5 years, I've said that a gazillion times. No problems in the history of the world. We look back and say good communication caused it. It's always every single problem on earth to some degree is a breakdown in communication. Right. Like as a communication strategist, what's the most common and biggest problem that you solve for folks?
So I think people need to turn back on. And there's always that. I always say in my course, you can either be vanilla or you could be obnoxious, but which one would you rather err on what side? If you're trying to win friends and influence people, I'd rather err on the side of being obnoxious than vanilla, because vanilla gets you passed over. So I don't want to change people. I just want to turn up the volume on who they are. I want to say beware of your emotions, beware of your body language, your gestures, the voice. You see by now, I'm a loud, excited talker.
Yeah.
If I'm not present and I'm not aware of that, I'll spend this whole podcast getting louder and louder and louder. But if I can just alter my voice, if I can pause, I can slow down, I'm a totally different person.
Facts.
And what that's doing right now for your listeners or for your viewers, it's creating like this up and down. In other words, anything monotonous, we tune out. You had the teacher in high school or college that was the lecturer, and they were monotonous, and what happened?
Yeah.
If any of you guys are old enough, we were talking with your uncle outside. If any of you guys remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Ben Stein, he was the teacher, and he was like, Bueller,
Yeah.
Bueller, and the kids were literally, the drool was coming out of their mouth. So that's how I think we reach people today. I believe in edutainment. In other words, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're running a company, people need to be motivated, they need to be woken up, and they want to learn, but we have all these ways to teach people. And why would you just lecture people when you can do it with your body, you can do it with your vocal tone, you can do it with your face and your expression, so all of those things.
Communication strategist working with the NFL, which one came first?
Good question. So I always want to be a writer. So when you're a writer, and this was around 2000, in 2002, I covered the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Gruden years, okay? But
that was cool.
Yeah, and I was at the facility every day talking to Derek Brooks, talking to Warren Sapp, John Gruden, interviewing him every day. I was in the Monday night press box with, this is back in the day, John Madden was still around and some of these guys. But it went from a 3-page sports section to the back of the business page.
Got it.
How many people do you know that still get a newspaper?
Well, we were talking about my dad earlier, yeah.
Yeah, right? So that's one of the questions I ask when I'm at a conference. I go, raise your hand if you still get a newspaper. Nobody. But I started realizing it, and this is a fantastic story. So it's the very first time on Monday Night Football that I am going to get on the field, and I actually have an assignment. So you work your way up doing all the menial tasks, stats and all this stuff. So they're like, Norrie, tonight you're going to get a chance, and we need you. And my only assignment was to get a quote from Kurt Warner. So at the time, the Rams are coming off a Super Bowl run.
Okay.
They just won the Super Bowl. Kurt Warner is this rags to riches story. He's the pretty boy of the NFL, and everybody loves him. Tampa is up and coming. So Tampa beats the pants off the Rams.
Okay.
And Kurt Warner just has a terrible game. I mean, he's sacked like 4 or 5 times, like 3 interceptions, just gets pummeled. I'm on the sidelines. All I have to do is get a quote from him. So I have my little voice recorder. Now, if you guys ever seen after a football game, what happens after the game? What happens to the players?
Yeah, everybody meets in the middle of the field.
And the press just swarms them.
Yeah.
So my first time, I go, this is okay. I'm going to be nervous, but all I got to do is stick my mic in there and get a quote. I just need audio.
Yeah.
So there goes the gun in the fourth quarter. Kurt's walking at me. I'm walking at him, and I'm waiting for people. Nobody else is coming.
Holy cow.
He's got grass coming out of the top of his helmet. He's got blood stains on his uniform. He was beat down, and I'm waiting. My heart starts to beat because nobody's coming. And then we're meeting each other at midfield, and I go, Kurt, can I ask you a few questions? Undoes the chin strap, takes off the helmet, puts it under his arm. Super nice guy. Yeah, I had a rough game. They're a great team. I could have done better. We didn't play our best. Super humble. Answers like 3 or 4 questions, and he goes, "Is that all?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, thanks." Puts on his helmet, does the chin strap, and jogs off. And it just left an impression on me. I was like, wow, I'm not Sal Palantonio. He doesn't know me from anybody. He just had one of the worst games of his life. He could have said, pff. And I've gotten blown off by players after that.
Sure.
Big stars. I won't mention his name. He played with the Buccaneers. They won that game. This was a couple weeks later. I just got to get a quote from him. So now I'm confident.
Yeah.
I go, "Hey, Mr." I called him by his first name. And he just laughed at me and pointed and shook his head. And he didn't answer my question. And now I think I did something wrong. So I go to one of the bigger reporters. I go, I messed up. I go, "I didn't get the quote." He goes, "Who was it?" And I told him the guy's name. And he goes, "That's because he only talks to people after he's showered. He wants everybody around him. He's kind of a prima donna. And he won't talk to anybody who he doesn't think is a superstar reporter. And it has to be on his turf." So the juxtaposition of the two people, equal celebrities. One treated me as a nobody, like I mattered. The other one treated me as a nobody, like I didn't matter. And then I just said, hey, I want to teach people how to do that in everyday life. I want to try and teach people how to get along and how to teach people like they matter in their business, in their homes, with their wives and kids, and certainly in whatever profession they have.
What, like, obviously when you're able to get people to do that, it changes things. It changes their perspective, probably changes their confidence in themselves. Like that, for me, when I was able to when I was secure enough in myself to communicate the truth without sugarcoating it or trying to make it something that it wasn't, I was free.
Yeah.
I was free. It was like, I'm just me. It is what it is. And I'm going to give you the best of me, and that's good enough. And that's okay. And it was free. And that was, for my wife and I, we're always on a spiritual journey together. And that's been the biggest thing is that, I think God has to remove things out of your life to make room for new things. But it's wild too because, they say it's on God's time, which is wild, but like God's not going to give you a blessing that he knows that you're not ready for.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So like anytime that, it's natural. It's like, gosh, we've been working for this for so long. When is we finally going to have that breakthrough? Well, we've learned to look in the mirror and be like, what is it? Like, it's us obviously holding it back. What is it that we just need to let go? It's always something we need to let go of and just free ourselves of. And it makes room for it, man. It's almost like that weight that you carry. It's taking up space and it's keeping the next great thing from coming in there, right? So what are some of the improvements that you saw, like drastic improvements in people's lives and change when you started to do that?
Well, a couple. Let me give you one in work because I'm working with teens now. So I'll give you the one at work first. So I started with entrepreneurs and then people started to see what I was doing. And then one day I had a guy's call me and he had 25 HVAC employees, dudes, blue collar dudes. And he goes, hey, I want you to come train my guys. And I said, yeah. I say yes to things. This is one of my principles. I say yes to things I don't know if I can do to challenge myself.
Love it.
Like I say yes and I'll figure it out later. So I said yes, absolutely. Get off the phone and look at my wife. I go, I'm going to go train 25 HVAC guys. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like this is new. I'm scared. So I started to research some of the HVAC things and I started to research trades. And so I got into this thing with trades. It went well because I realized they're not different. They're just working with a different segment. They're working with their hands. Dirty hands, clean money. Right?
Let's go.
Dirty hands, clean money.
That's a book.
It's not mine. It's not mine. It's a brand. It's a good brand because
I didn't know.
These are the future millionaires. The blue collars are the future millionaires because as they're building out AI, these are the guys that have to build out the infrastructure. So there's always work that AI can't take over. So here's the thing. I started working with painters. So I have a friend out in Arizona, Freedom Painting. My friend Richie at Freedom Painting, shout out. And he came to me because he was doing a podcast with his wife. They have a blended family. And he goes, I want to hire you and be in your group because we have a blended family podcast and I want to learn how to podcast and be more dynamic. And I said, great. So he goes through my system. Well, Richie was a commercial and residential painter and they do what? They do their own commercials. You've seen them. If you open up your Instagram or Facebook, there's your blue collar guys, your painters, your residential guys going, hire me. So Richie took the stuff that I taught him how to be a podcaster, doing his own commercials. And he comes to me, he goes, my cost per click is down almost half. half. And he goes, all I did was incorporate some of the things more dynamic on camera, because think about it. If you're hiring someone to come paint your house and they're going to be in there for 4 days, you kind of want to know that they're safe. You kind of want to know that you're going to have to talk to them a little bit. It's not the primary thing, but I always say if price, skill, and experience all being equal, why should somebody pick you? Well, personality. And I just talked to a person who was in car financing, said the same thing. I talked to a guy who's an electrician. The hardest thing today, all things being equal, is that trust transaction between the buyer and the seller. And so that's the thing I take to a person or a company. Now, working with teens, the biggest compliment I got is I trained this girl. She was 14, and she was doing great in the program. She was speaking. All the kids were like, I can't believe how great you got in the 6 sessions that we were working together. But her mom sends me a text. Her mom sends me a text that says, I can't believe George is actually going out of her way to talk to people now. People are coming up to me telling what has happened with your daughter because she's totally changed. And she goes, the ironic part is, Georgia said before she took your class, she goes, Mom, the one thing I'm not doing, I'm not speaking in that class. If you sign me up for it, I'm not going to talk. And I go, I didn't know that because she was the best one in the class. She was talking like it was easiest thing for her.
Got it.
So my goal is to get people out of their shell. Like you were talking about God. So there's a thing, I'm talking at a Christian school next week in Phoenix. One of the things I love to talk to the kids who especially are believers, when Moses was tasked with going to the Pharaoh and saying, set my people free, he went to God and he said, God, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm 80 years old. I stutter. My mouth doesn't work. And what did God say? Who made your mouth? Who made your mouth? So we know, and everybody has to come out of their shell. It's a confidence thing.
Right.
And so I think most people want to be more confident. Most people, even if they're an introvert, they want to be that person that can go up to people at a party and introduce themselves and have a conversation. But you have to have patience. You have to gamify some of this stuff. And then you have to really have a belief in them and tell them, hey, it's okay. We're all built the same, but God made us.
Yeah. I had to, I'll tell a story I've told before. As a, I'm an introvert, David, okay? So the reason...
You would never know it.
Well, thank you. When we were in a previous life in the hospitality industry, especially when we had the big nightclubs, I loved to DJ for 3 reasons. One, as a musician, I love that part. 2, as the owner of the establishment, I got to control revenue with music, okay? But the biggest reason is in that DJ booth, I had walls. Nobody could get to me. I was in the party, in the middle of the party, but I didn't have to rub shoulders with anybody. I was separated. So my wife is the opposite. She loves the crowded room, and the crowded room used to stress me out. Here's what I figured out about that. It took my son teaching me a lesson when he was 4 years old, maybe. He's going to be in the big Christmas cantata at church. All right, so it's going to be all cute. They got their angel wings on, all that stuff. We're backstage, and place is packed. And I made the mistake of letting him look out the curtain and see everybody before we go on. And he's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I was like, what do you mean you're not doing it? He goes, I'm just not doing it. I was like, are you shy? And it was like, well, I don't know what that means. Are you scared?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I'm a little bit scared. And I'm like, oh, hold on a minute, dude. I was like, that's selfish. My wife was kicking me. She was like, what are you doing to him? You know? And I was like, that's selfish. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, well, dude, like, all those people that just freaked you out, like, you know, a lot of them, like your grandparents are out there, you got friends. I was like, what are they here to do? He was like, well, they're here to see me. I'm like, well, don't you want to make them happy? He was like, yeah. I'm like, then go make them happy. Make it about them. And he was like, oh, okay, that's easy.
That's a good word.
That's easy. So for me, as an introvert, when I'm uncomfortable with those crowded rooms, for me, it was literally I'd go to the bathroom, talk a little smack, and be like, you selfish thing. Like, you're making it about you, and that room's full of people that might need you.
That's right.
And you might need them even more.
A little self-pep talk.
Like, you know, so I've created all this weight and all this nervousness is taking up space that there's a whole bunch of people that could fill that void and make it better.
Yeah.
And that is confidence is a skill.
Absolutely.
I think faith is, you got to practice these things.
Yep.
You got to get good at it, man. Are you ready to take your brand digital? At HitLab Creative, we don't just make content. We build your digital foundation from the ground up. So whether you're launching a podcast, creating scroll-stopping social media content, or building a website that actually converts, we connect all the dots. Visit hitlabstudio.com/studio-time and let's build something that lasts. Because the HitLab is where digital strategy meets data-driven content creation.
I had a mentor one time that said every master was once a disaster, right?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, remember that one. And you mentioned clubs, so this is the genesis. I'm glad you mentioned that, Nick, because this is the genesis of it. Because when my friends met me, I moved to Tampa, and I met some people because I didn't know anybody, and eventually I met people and I became friends with this group of people, guys and gals, and when they introduced me as Dave to one of their parents, and they go, Dave, and they go, yeah, we talk about Dave, and they go, no, I never mentioned Dave. They go, yeah, they go, hip hop Dave, and the mom goes, oh, hip hop Dave, this is hip hop Dave, and I'm like. Wait, me? I'm hip hop Dave?
Yeah.
I don't even know this.
Gosh.
I'm like, where did you come up with this? Because they go, here's the thing. We always used to go to the clubs, and we used to go, who's that crazy white guy out there dancing all by himself? And we said, that's hip hop. That we just called you hip hop. Then we learned your name Dave, so we just added Dave. But the genesis of that, and I'll make this quick, is when I got out of college, I moved in with a guy from South America, and he loved to dance. And we'd go out to clubs. We were young clubbers. He would go out and dance. I would go out and be a wallflower like this every single time. And I'm like, when are we going to go, Dave? When are we going to go? And he'd be the last one to leave. And he'd leave, and he'd be all sweaty, have a good time. And I'd be like this. So finally he goes to me one time, he goes, why aren't you going out there? What's your problem? I go, I don't know. He goes, you're in your head too much. You're so worried about what all everybody thinks. He goes, you know, when I'm out there in that circle, that dance circle, and people are around me, he goes, all those people on the outside of that circle, where do they want to be? They want to be on the inside of the circle, but they're too much in their head.
Yeah.
He goes, what I want you to do is I want you to get out of your head. And he goes, you've heard that theory, dance like nobody's watching, do that.
Yep. That's freedom, isn't it?
So I literally did it. One time I sat there at this club, I'll never forget, and I walked out into the middle. I closed my eyes. I got to the rhythm, and I just started dancing with my eyes closed. Eyes closed, and I just started dancing. And when I opened my eyes a couple minutes later, there was a circle around me. And that became my thing. I said, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm in it for me, because it's almost the opposite of what you were saying.
Yeah.
But they both work.
That's right.
Mine was, don't be so worried about what other people thinking that you're preventing yourself from enjoying it. Close your eyes if you have to.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what other people are thinking.
It's insecurity at the end of the day, right?
Well,
on all levels to a degree.
When I started researching and I started saying, hey, I want to do this to help people for a living, I came upon something called meta-perception. So perception is how I see you. You are wearing a black jacket. You have sneakers on, right? I see your watch. Perception. Then there's self-perception. That's usually when you look in the mirror, or self-perception is, I know I'm Dave. I know what I do for a living. I know what my personality is like. But the third one is something called meta-perception. This is way before Zuckerberg came out with any meta thing. This is way before that. Meta-perception is how I see you seeing me. It's the feedback in my head that I'm getting. What is Nick thinking of me right now? Is he think I'm interesting? Is he bored? Is he excited? Is that a genuine laugh? Is he smiling at me? Does he like me? Does he say, I should have never asked Dave onto the show? Nick, meta-perception is a dream killer. That's how I identify it. It is a dream killer. Now, you'll never kick it. You'll never beat it. And you don't want to, because you don't want to be that idiot that has zero idea of what he's doing, because then you don't care how other people... You want people to care. You want to be a good person and liked, but not to the point where it keeps you from it. So meta-perception, I always look, because I want to personify things so people can see, well, what does that mean? So the poster boy for meta-perception, and I might have to get a new one because it's becoming a little outdated, but the poster boy for meta-perception is George Costanza for Seinfeld.
Yeah, baby.
He was always so worried about how people, if they liked him or not, that he would lie about his name, his occupation, his hair. He was so hyper-focused. And there's this one scene where he's out with Jerry, and they're at the coffee shop. And they had a double date the night before. And George is like, she didn't like me, did she? And he's talking about Jerry's date. He's like, she liked you. What? He's like, no, she didn't like me. And Jerry goes, she liked you. He goes, you hesitated. You hesitated. So he's got such high perception of what this is because his meta perception is so high now.
Yeah.
And Jerry goes, yeah, she didn't like you. He goes, what did she say exactly? He goes, I don't like him. And so the big thing is the scene changes. So he's out with his date the next day and he's still talking about it. He's like, why didn't she like me? And she's like, George, you're my boyfriend. Why do you care so much about her? I'm starting to think that you got a thing for her. So regardless of that, is if we get so high in meta perception that it starts to creep into other areas of our life.
There you go.
If we're so worried about how we come across and we're so worried about how people perceive us, we're going to not dance like your son. You're going to not go out there and perform. You're not going to start the podcast. You're not going to write the book. You're not going to maybe get the promotion because meta perception is a dream killer.
David, you mentioned writing the book. Well, you've done that a couple times. And just for what it's worth, that's something in my first one. It's in the near future.
All right.
It's something we've been talking about it for too long, and we're finally going to create the space and bring it to life. I'm very confident we know what it's going to be about, the thesis of it, the purpose, all those things, who it's aimed at. Tell me a little bit about yours and what inspired you to do that.
Well, I'm going to tell you two, and you tell me which one you want to go deeper on. The first one, 2018, this whole turned on thing came. My wife and I were in Disney World it's a restaurant at the top of the Contemporary Hotel. It's a fairly fancy restaurant. It's like the only one in Disney World that is like a 4-star. Mm-hmm. And it was when we would get away from and the kids and just have an opportunity just for her and I. So we sit down and we notice there's a table of 4, a husband and wife and two boys. And they were like probably 10 and 11 years old.
Okay.
And when we sit down, my wife nudges me. She goes, look, everyone at that table is on a device. The mom and dad were texting and the 2 kids were on a tablet. I'm like, yeah, And then halfway through dinner, I look over and they're still on it. And then guess what? At the end of dinner, still on it. And she goes, think about this. These people are on vacation. They're spending time together now, and they're all on a device. And I'm like, man, we got to do something about this. Because her dad and her mom had just passed in our first 5 years of marriage. And she said, there's nothing I wouldn't do to have 5 more minutes, a cup of coffee with my dad.
Wow.
And that brought us back to presence being a gift. I go, the biggest regret that most of us will have living in this generation will be the regret of presence. We will look back one day on our deathbed and say, I regret I didn't spend enough time with my parents. I regret I didn't spend enough time with my kids because they go out of the house like that. And I've had guys in my class, big dude, alpha males, 6'8", muscles everywhere. And I always ask this question in the last class. I say, looking back on your life, you're 90 years old or whatever, you've had a great life. What's your biggest regret? Big alpha males, waterfalls. Not spending enough time with my kids. Presence, bro. Presence is the key of that book. And then the second book was in the middle of, I wrote it in 2019, 2020, right on the tails of that, in the middle of COVID. And it was about the fundamental wisdom of the Bible. And I think this was something that was near and dear to my heart because I grew up in a religion and I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people get church hurt where they're either abused physically or mentally and it's obvious. And you're like, you're church hurt. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't have any terrible experiences. I wasn't church hurt. I was church disappointed.
Okay.
I was church disappointed because in my 20s, late 20s and 30s, I went off the rails. Living in South Florida, single guy, lifestyle, I went off the rails.
Good times, I bet.
God came to me walking out of a nightclub in the morning. So when God speaks to people, I've heard people say they've heard the audible voice of God. This wasn't the audible voice of God, but there's an intuition, what's called the inner voice, and it's strong. Mm-hmm. And you know it because it's sometimes the way you don't talk to yourself.
Yeah.
And I was walking out of a nightclub on South Beach at 10 o'clock in the morning by myself, and families were walking by me, going to the beach. And as clear as day, not in an audible voice, but in my internal voice, intuition, God spoke to me and he said, David, what you're looking for, you will not find. Because remember, I loved music. I loved dancing at this point. So I was looking for that euphoric night of dancing.
Yeah.
And God said, what you're looking for, you will not find. Leave. And I left South Beach the next day, moved to Tampa, where my family had migrated to, put bags, everything in garbage bags. And then started another 10-year run of not doing anything that crazy. But it wasn't until I met my wife, Angelique, and she goes, let's go to a Bible church. And I go, what's that? She goes, you need to be fed. And for a religious person, if you tell them they need to be fed, they think you're talking about food.
Yeah.
She goes,
Potluck, baby.
Yeah. She goes, you need to be fed spiritually. So we went to a Bible-based church, and I walked out of that church, Nick. And the first thing I did, I looked at her and I said, where has that been all my life? Where has that been all my life? And that started, so I wanted to write that book about the foundational wisdom of the Bible, to say everything in that book, every book before it that you've read on the shelves, every Tony Robbins, everything is that book just leaving the author out.
Yeah.
Nothing new underneath the sun, right? It says that in the Bible. There's nothing new underneath the sun, but everything in that book is already written. That book is the manual for how to live life, but I just saw religion. I didn't have that relationship. I didn't know that was going to teach me.
Same, exactly the same. That's exactly right. I know exactly what you're talking about. Been there. My pastor, Josh Heisman, he says that you were church hurt, little c. You know,
Yeah.
you were little c church.
Yeah.
You were little c church hurt.
That's it.
So absolutely. Well, I mean, both of them are. Let's take a minute and just hit both of them for a minute. So obviously, presence is everything. You can't get time back with people when they're gone, and it's funny too, because I've learned that the things that get on my nerves the most about the ones that I spend the most time with are the things that I'm going to miss the most.
Exactly.
When they're not there. I poke fun at my dad all the time because he's, sometimes he has to learn some tech and learn some new things, and I poke fun of him at it, and sometimes it is a pain in the butt. With life happening and everything else, how big of a jerk, do you got to be to say your dad is bothering you or something like that?
Not at all.
I used to feel that way, and I don't anymore. I've learned, and it took some people saying, Nick, think about what you just said. I was like, man, you're right. This is the greatest. I'm gonna wish I could teach him how to unlock his phone one day. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally gonna be there. And I know you've lost your parents.
Yeah.
So this can really help. I have both mine still.
Yeah.
I have both
Cherish
mine still.
that. Cherish that.
As a matter of fact, my wife and I both have all of our parents.
Have they been in here in the studio?
My dad sat in the chair a couple times.
You interviewed him about his life?
So the first time he came in, my son and I interviewed him, which was
Good.
really cool. My son was very young. That was neat. And then I started to realize the power of having all this stuff on film because, my daughter never met my granddad. My granddad's the greatest man I ever knew. And she never met him because he was gone, and there's not a lot of footage of him.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about what we do here is no matter what, if something happened to me today, my kids have hundreds of thousands of hours of footage
Nailed it.
that will live forever. So, long story short, I'm driving back from Cool Springs one night, listening to Prime Country on Sirius XM, and a song comes on by Sylvia that I hadn't heard in probably 30 years since my dad played it for me last when he was in the music business. I called him up and I was like, Dad, man, this was a great time in country music. You got tons of stories. I just got to record them.
Yep.
So I have them.
That's awesome.
So I brought him back in. We did another episode, and that's some of my most prized footage. My wife's been in here. My son's been on here 4 or 5 times. It's 100% intentional to know that we've got this. We can keep it.
Get it on tape.
Absolutely.
I interviewed my dad just by circumstance. He was healthy. We had no idea anything was going to happen. And I interviewed him upstairs, outdoors on it. We had a porch in Franklin. And at his funeral, it was amazing because I said, I know Dad has a great answer, speaking posthumously from the grave, but prior on tape. And I said, Dad, what's the biggest regret you had in life, right? And he takes a second to think about it, and he goes, worry. Because I worried about things that would never happen. I worried about all the things in my life that I worried and spent so much time worried that never happened. And every single person in that room, that was a gift. Because we all worry about those things. And every once in a while we go back to worry because we're never going to beat worry either. And my wife reminded me, what did your dad say? All the time he wasted, he gave you that gift even though he didn't know he's giving you that gift, he gave you that gift. And then the stories that your generations, that's the biggest thing, because your kids will have everything in high def. And
right.
yesterday, my mom passed this past week, and the first person I walked in at the funeral was a little cousin of mine who had just been born, never met him before. He's up in New York, and he's 1 year old. I'm like, he has no idea the gravity of what's happening today because he's just eating his crackers. I go, but here's the difference. His mom will have his life on high def. Everything that they can speak to him for generations, they'll have on tape. Where I got a picture of my dad, or I got some 8mm footage of my mom and dad with no sound.
Yeah.
So that's a gift, yeah.
Absolutely. You ready to transform your business and unlock new revenue streams? At Processing First, we empower our partners with cutting-edge payment solutions and unparalleled support. By leveraging our extensive network of banking partners, we match you with the ideal bank to ensure that you receive the most competitive rates and deliver an exceptional experience for both you and your customers. Visit processingfirst.com to learn more and join our growing community of successful partners.
You know, at the beginning of my book, it's all about everything is turn on your work, turn on your body, turn on your relationships, turn on your marriage. Everything is the turned on, every chapter of that book. But the very first quote that I used in the very first page of the Turned On book is something I want to just share with you and your listeners because it's important. A guy named Howard Washington Thurman. He was a civil rights leader and a theologian in America. And he said this, he goes, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive. Okay? Don't ask yourself what the world needs, because we all do that. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, because that's what the world needs, is more people who have come alive. And so, you know, your son plays instruments. He's alive. I watch him play a guitar. Like, he's coming alive. He's not asking himself, does my dad want me to be a physician? Does my dad want me to do this? Maybe he is, but he's alive, and that's why music is such a big part of our lives. Your dad was a musician, because music is one of those things that makes people come alive. And my daughter plays music. Even if they're never professional musicians, they have that. Find something you're passionate about. Maybe you have to do something else for work to pay the bills, but find something you're passionate at, because when you can die a spiritual death way before you die a physical death.
Bro, you are preaching right now. I'm serious. Like, there's that old saying: if you're not, if you're not happy what you're not doing what God called you to do. Like, a lot of people are just miserable doing what they're doing, and it's just because you're not using the one unique thing that God gave you and only you on this earth, man. It's wild. But that's like, for me, that's the gift. It's like, I shouldn't be doing this, so I just got to figure out how to pivot into what it is that I know I need to be doing.
Well, we all have done something to make money, and like I said, sometimes you got to do both. But if you're passionate in life, you meet passionate people, and they have a different feel about them. Like, something's different about that guy, Nick. It's because he lives with passion. And we got to take that passion into our marriages, because the marriage will die a spiritual death if you're not passionate about it. Man. And we got to take it into our relationships with our kids. And that's why you see, being an NFL reporter, a lot of the old-time coaches that were coaches for years and years and years, that was their identity in coaching. And then when they got fired or they retired, the end came real quick because they lost that zest for life.
Right.
And it's really difficult. So I say, you know what? Do like Howard Thurman Washington did, and say, hey, what makes me come alive? Because that's what the world needs. We have a lot of people, our terminology, people are on cruise control and autopilot. You have a lot of people, and the government's promoting this. Hey, you know what? Just vote for our policies. You sit back in your chair, smoke weed, play video games, and go on cruise control. Don't have any passion in life, and we'll take care of you from cradle to grave, because the government doesn't want passionate people. And I'm not talking about our government or China's government or Russia's government or the UK government. I'm talking about government.
Right.
Government doesn't want passionate people. They want to control you. And it's really hard to control passionate people. It's really easy to control people who are on autopilot. It's really easy to control people who have said, I'm on cruise control. And when you put your marriage on cruise control, it ends. When you put the relationship with your kids on cruise control, it ends. Or you put your relationship, like we were just talking about, with your parents on cruise control. So we have to steward that. We have to water it.
It's that's probably been one of the biggest epiphanies that that my wife and I had, because again, we came up in the same system everybody else did. Go to school. Back then it was go to school, go to college, get a job, get married, buy a house. Have kids in that order. I can still remember to this day when I was trying to figure some stuff out. And my mom was probably some good advice back in the day. However, now she's told me over and over how proud she is of what we're doing and everything else. But I can remember when I was trying to figure things out as an entrepreneur, struggling, always having to go back. Can you help me? Can you help me? I wasn't responsible. I was just a young adult, a dumbass young adult, just like most of us were. But she was like, Nick, you'd be better off getting a management job at like Walmart, a real job. And I'm like, but that only pays like $30,000, man. Like I can't even raise a family on that. It's more than you're making now. You know, it gives you it'll give you something, a paycheck's coming the next week. I took that and it motivated me, and it was like, well, I can create that on my own and make and have the number on that paycheck what I believe it should be versus what somebody else is willing to give me over and over again. So,
and a similar story, because that's not your mom's fault. They were raised in a different generation.
That's right.
We went from the agriculture era to the industrial age, and now we're in this technological age and this kind of entrepreneurial age, and especially AI is really going to mess with that now.
Yeah.
Because you're really going to have to figure out some ways to get creative. But my dad, when I went from a regular full-time sales job in medical devices to go into the entrepreneurial space, my dad, who loved me, didn't talk to me for weeks.
Really?
Thought it was the dumbest thing I ever did. It wasn't until I started making some money and he started snooping around and seeing what I was doing. And he came around, and then he was never more proud of me, but that wasn't his MO.
Wow.
And when we look at the parents' generation, we woke up, I saw my dad for a couple minutes at breakfast. He went to work, I went to school. He came home at 6. We had lunch or dinner together as a family. But we didn't get to spend all this time. So we're in new territory, Nick, with our kids, with our parents. And we're trying to figure it out. Some of their wisdom is good, but some of it is just changing. Like our kids don't want our lives. And we're gonna be in that situation where we're gonna be like, but in my day, kids, it was like this. And they're gonna be like, well, Dad, it's not your day anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be, we gotta ride that line very carefully, because some of it is like, nope, you're being stupid, trust me. And some of it is like, all right, like maybe I'm being old-fashioned.
I used to be very part of my insecurities were, as a guy that was known as a really good athlete for a long time and everything else. My son was a late bloomer, and I took it. It was almost like I looked at his inabilities to do certain things as a reflection of me. Believe that? Can you believe that? Like how crazy it is to even say that out loud. That was something that happened for a long time, and the moment that it was like we raised him. We know what's in him. We know who he is. Like, I got to trust that. I had to learn to trust what we had instilled in him and the person that God was moving him to be. God, that was free. That was freedom. That was freedom. And now I'm just his biggest fan. And now instead of him saying, "Oh man, I hope Dad don't find out," now he's saying, "Dad don't know what to do." Yeah. That's the ultimate goal, right? So that's really cool. So the two books. Let's make sure everybody knows what the names of those two are. And which order do they read them in? Does it matter?
So the first one is I recommend Turned On, and I think it's just as valuable today as when I wrote it in 2018. I think even more valuable. So Turned On, Tuning In a Tuned Out World is the subtitle. The second one is called The Pursuit. Okay, The Pursuit. I was originally going to call it How Did I Miss That? Remember, I told you I was church disappointed.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did I miss all this stuff in the Bible? And then my editor said, well, let's make it something. We'll call it The Pursuit of Foundational Wisdom of the Bible. And it said, the subtitle basically, the truth that they don't want you to know is the truth that will set you free. So let's talk about truth. I think this is important. So my wife, when we're dating, she takes me to this non-denominational Bible teaching church. Now, at the time I was working covering the NFL, a lot of my friends were in the NFL. And we had this whirlwind romance. But we didn't tell anybody because we wanted to keep it private. We didn't want anything ruining this. It was like a whirlwind all-star romance. But we get engaged. The invitations are out. And I have this wild hair. And I come to her one day. We're like 4 months out from the wedding.
Yeah.
And I walk into her house and I say, hey, I just want to lay down how it's going to be. I said, I mean, I don't know where it came from. But I said, I'm going to go out and hang out and do these things, and I don't want you getting mad at me if I come home in the middle of the night or if I have to get a cab home, because I'm partying or something. And she's like, okay. And she literally, Nick, she took off her wedding ring and she put it on the table, and she's like, that's not the man I know. That's not the man I'm going to marry.
Wow.
And we were already ready. Wow. And And I walked out of the house that night. And I walked past my car. I was so mad. I walked past my car in the driveway and I just kept walking. I walked probably 3 miles. That upset. And this is, I swear to you, no lying, no sensationalizing. I walked into a movie theater by myself. Do you know what that movie was?
No.
Grown Ups. That was the title of the movie, Grown Ups. And it was a comedy, but ironically, it's not lost. I needed to grow up.
Yeah.
So my buddy at the time says 3 days had went by, kind of like Jonah in the belly of the whale. He goes, you need to talk to her. I'm very prideful.
Did you guys not talk for the 3 days?
3 days.
I was
prideful. And if you see my wife, I have no business being with her. So you know how strong pride is, the spirit of pride is. If I was going to throw that away, my buddy, thank God for my best friend, he goes, go talk to her.
That's how I knew you were awesome, though, before I met you, because I met her first. And people say that about me when they meet my wife and then meet me second. They're like, I knew you had to be cool because, like, how, you know.
Outkick my coverage. But I was ready to throw it all away. So this is what I want your listeners to hear, and this is so important. If I have one message. She said, I don't know who you, I went back to her house, and literally spirit of pride, like arms folded, body posture, just what? Mm-hmm. And she's like, I can't believe you said that. And she goes, do you read the Bible? Now, we've been dating, we've been to church, and she's like, do you read the Bible? And the proud Catholic I was, right? I'm like, I read the Bible. Mm-hmm. I've been going to church since I was 5 years old, serving in the churches. I read the Bible. She goes, well, then would you do me a favor? Would you go upstairs and read one passage with me before you walk out of that door for the rest of our lives and we cancel this wedding? Would you just read one passage with me? And I'm prideful me says, yeah, let's go. And I'm like literally up the stairs. She opens the Bible and she hands it to me. And it's 1 Corinthians, and it's a letter from Paul to the Corinthians. And it says this, when I was a boy, I acted like a boy. And when I became a man, it came time to put the ways of childhood, boyish things behind me.
Wow.
So when I tell you about, people tell stories about faith. When she said that at that moment, it was piercing to my soul. It wasn't, hey, that's a cool story, I'll think about it. Oh, I never heard that, or explain more. It was like, oh my God, I'm acting like a child.
Yeah.
I got to put these things behind me. This is the next step. This is my wife. So we said from that moment on, we've had our fights. We spend almost every waking hour together. Yeah. We've been in business together for 15 years.
Yeah.
We don't get breaks from each other.
No.
We
I don't want one, do you?
No, but I mean, we fight like normal couples, but to last this long, and I'm saying, wow, that was, the word of God will pierce the heart of people who need to hear it. And we know that nothing moves mountains like that. So even when you're doing this podcast, when I'm doing the public speaking, or when I'm with Root, here's the thing. Paul said, I could have survived on tithing. He goes, but I continued to be a tent maker because the people that were making tents at night beside me, those were the ones that weren't saved. Those were the people that needed Scripture and Jesus.
Wow.
Right? So we're going to start this church. It's not going to be a regular church because people come to church, and I'm not an evangelist. But what I want to do is, my goal is to light up the lukewarm.
There you go.
I was a lukewarm Christian.
There you go.
And I needed the Word of God to pierce my heart and light me up and say, wait, you got a calling on your life. So the pursuit, and I wrote it from a foundationally pragmatic standpoint because most of my faith had been built on, I'm a researcher. I'm a journalist. I wanted to know about Bible prophecy. I wanted to know about biblical archaeology. I wanted to know about the history outside of the Bible, like Josephus. And so at the end of every chapter, I had a did you know? And this is for people who, hey, if you have supernatural faith, that's great. I didn't have supernatural faith at the beginning. God came to me one time in that inner voice and said, move on, son. You're not going to find it here. The second time before I met my wife, he said, get your house in order. And I didn't know what that meant. So I literally cleaned up my house and I ended all this superficial relationships that I had with girls that weren't going anywhere. I stopped going out with my guy friends to clubs. He said, get your house in order. So God speaks to us if our ears are open, but then we have to actually read that book and get into the Word, and that is what saves people. Nothing else has saved more people in the history of mankind than the Word of God, hands down.
You said something that really stuck out to me and all that it's like, and it's, again, going back to what my wife and I work through all the time, it's, these patterns that we have. We have to have these breakthroughs to get the next gift that we're waiting on for so long. And it's wild because I think a lot of people live a lukewarm life but want, I guess, the boiling hot results. But everything they're doing is just, they're lukewarm relationships. There's another book in there, dude. I'm telling you, like you're killing it all day long today. There's probably at least 3 or 4 new book titles in what we're doing today. That's probably another signature keynote speech, if it's not already. Lukewarm. There's something big there that resonates with a lot of people, I would think.
Well, the very first quote of that book, I told you about the first quote in Turned On book. The very first quote of the book, The Pursuit, is from 2 Thessalonians. And it basically says, he will not return. Jesus will not return unless the apostasy comes first.
Okay.
So the apostasy is a falling away. So I believe that we're right at that point.
Feels that way, doesn't it?
What would make people on a grand scale fall away? Because it's talking about believers. What would make believers on a grand scale fall away more than anything else that is prevalent right now and gaining prevalence in our time?
False prophet, false flag, or some proof that seems like it's overwhelming, but it's really not. It hasn't been fully investigated, maybe.
Have you ever seen maybe something on your phone where it's like, this person is talking, I can see them talking, I know that's them, I can hear their voice, and then someone says, that's not them. Mm-hmm. That was AI. Mm-hmm. So I believe AI will usher in the apostasy because we will see things with our eyes, we will hear things with our ears that we will say, no, I saw it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Isn't it funny how President Trump is going to release all this information about aliens now that we have AI? Supposedly it's been around since the 40s and 50s, and no one's ever really shown definitive proof, but now we have definitive proof. And I think that's going to be the kind of thing that would drive people away from the Lord. Hey, guess what? You think we were made by God? You've heard this story in the Bible? Well, there's aliens from another universe, and they're this, and they're hyper intelligent, and they've done this. And then you have the most ardent Christians going, maybe that's true. Or Elon Musk comes out with Neuralink, and you come up to an ardent Christian who believes, and you say, hey, do you believe in life after death? Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%? Well, nobody's ever come back from the dead, so I have faith. Well, I have a Neuralink right here that we can download your consciousness, and that would guarantee that you live forever. Mm-hmm. We have to be careful. The Bible says, be on alert. Be on alert because the apostasy is here. People will fall away. And you'll also see the opposite. You'll see people who you would think, that's the last person that I ever thought would be a believer, who is on fire for the Lord. So I think our work's cut out for us, brother.
I agree.
Our work is cut out for us. And that's why I'm glad I met you.
There's you said something cool that we were referencing some old movies before. Mm-hmm. Your wife, around my house, we always call it by the name of the movie or whatever, but she White Men Can't Jump to You.
Okay.
That's when they're in the car and he's like, you listen to Jimmy, but you don't hear Jimmy.
Right.
And she was like, do you read your Bible?
Yeah.
She was like, she White Men Can't Jump to You, and it worked.
Well, our old pastor said, he goes, he was a Catholic, not to, I was raised Catholic. He goes, every Catholic has that big dusty old Bible, on there that nobody touched. It just sat there gathering dust. And not to say that all Catholics don't read the Bible. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I didn't. Okay, this is my personal experience.
Yeah.
My mom, she just had her services at a Catholic church. I was born and baptized Catholic. I don't have anything against it, but I just believe no matter what denomination you are in the Christian faith, that you have to read that Bible, and we have to deter, because it's sometimes if you just tell somebody to read the Bible, it's not easy.
Yeah,
they're going to have a lot of questions. Just like when my mom passed recently. And again, with all due respect to my mother, I have young kids, and you got to explain life and death to them. And it's not easy. And my oldest daughter, who's 14, everything's ordained by God. Everything comes from God. And then she says this, who made God? Your wife and I look at each other, that's a tough one, right? I mean, we got to know. We got to know answers. We got to know how to answer these kids. But when I go to my mom at 6, 7, 8 years old, and had questions about life or death, contemplating it on a serious, deep level, her answer was just believe. And God rest her soul. I love my mom. I know she's in heaven. I know she's, she had good intentions. But my whole thing I told to my wife and my kids is, we have to be educated. So when people have hard questions, we can't say just believe, because just believe is not a great answer.
That's right.
People want they want to know things, and we are in the age of information. My pastor says we're in landed. We're in the land of knowledge, but we skip the encounter part. In other words, we've got all this information now at the tip of our fingers with AI, with Claude, with ChatGPT, but we're skipping the encounter part, and that's where the most dangerous thing is. That's where Speak Up, if we get into the last segment here, that's where Speak Up comes in. We can't relegate our learning, our marriages, our relationships, our businesses. We can't hand them over to AI and technology because it's not human. So you have your son, and then you have a daughter?
We have a daughter. She's 4.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Perfect segue. Every 4-year-old girl loves the movie Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, she does.
Belle. Okay? So my main keynote right now is called To Be Human Again, because I have 3 girls, and I've watched Beauty and the Beast 100 times.
Yeah.
And there comes that point in the movie where the clock, the candelabra, and the teapot know that all the things that they took for granted, Nick, simple things, cooking, cleaning, dancing, talking, romancing, all of these things that they took for granted as humans are in danger of being lost because they're slowly becoming less and less human from this curse.
Right.
And in a little while, they'll lose all their humanity. We are at a point right now, not to be overly dramatic, that we are slowly becoming less and less human, and we will lose our humanity unless we decide it is important for us to be human again, because nothing will beat that connection. And for the business people, for the entrepreneurs, nothing that you put in chat, no piece of technology will ever replace human connection. And that's why presence is at a premium. That's why your personality, what you're using right now, you're turning into profit. Mm-hmm. Other people that go on cruise control and autopilot, they will lose that. So if you're selling insurance, if you're selling cars, if you're selling health and wellness products, people want people in a relationship.
Yeah.
We can use all those other things to automate some things and make it easier. But if we lose the human connection, we lose everything that matters.
Hey, pardon this quick interruption, but it's a good one. You're listening to this ad right now, which means someone else could be listening to your ad in this exact spot. Go to nickhyder.com/contact-me or click the link in the show notes to get started. Let's put your brand in the spotlight right where it belongs. So what came first? Speak Up or, I mean, dude, you're speaking as a keynote speaker, you're on stages all the time. And like, first of all, in 2024, I did 42 of them suckers all across the United States. And it took a lot. I realized real quick, that's not actually what I want to do right now. You know what I mean? So but it took me doing that to figure that out. And then finishing, I actually knew it about halfway through, but I had to finish. Yep. You're doing it a lot. You guys are doing a lot of things. Did Speak Up come first, or like, because that's how a lot of people are going to be introduced to you is from the stage, right?
Yeah. Well, I started it when we were in sales of health and wellness, and I would see people, because I'm a squirrel by nature. I have a short attention span. So, and I would see people like pulled over in their car with their cell phones out and going live and like, hey, this is Sarah. How you doing? I just had a tuna fish sandwich, and I'm going to pick up my kid at soccer practice. And hey, Billy. Hey, Steve. Hey, Judy. I'm going to talk to you in a second about something really cool. I'm like, dude, swipe. Yeah. You lost me. Yeah. Like we unfortunately, for better or worse, they used to call it the 30-second elevator pitch. You've been in sales. You know what a 30-second elevator pitch is.
Yeah.
I call it the 8-second bull ride now. You don't have 30 seconds. A bull rider gets on that bull and they have 8 seconds or they get bumped off. So your social media is that raging bull. If you don't captivate them, you don't come out with some pizzazz, some personality, some charisma.
Yeah, quick.
Because my wife is Greek, and in the Greek language, charisma is the derivative of the Greek word charismata, which means gift from God. So we each have a gift. Your gift is different than mine. Yeah. We have a lot of things in common. My wife's gift is different than mine. Your wife's gift is different than yours. So, but we each have a gift. Our life's goal should be, what is that? How do we turn up the volume on that gift? And how do we use it? But we're in danger of that as we turn our lives over. So I would think the first thing was waking people up, because I hate being bored. and I am a squirrel. And if we want to communicate, we have to grab people's attention. And then the second thing was, actually, even before that, is I've always been a believer. But as you get older, guess what? It becomes more important to you. You know, you're a baseball guy. Okay? Here's the best one. You're a baseball guy. So you're a pitcher?
Catcher.
Catcher. Okay, so you're a hitter. Okay?
Sometimes.
So you're a hitter. So let's say your best time in the bigs, you get to that first base. What happens? You get your first hit, you're on first base.
Oh, they memorialize that sucker. That's a big deal. Absolutely.
But you're sitting there like you just got a hit. Let's say you just got your first single. You're on first base. You're like, man, this is great. You look crowd. You're adjusting your uniform, your hat. I just got on first base.
That's right.
You're in it, right? Guess what? Typically, there's the batter at the plate, right? So you're on first base. You're just happy to be there. I look at that as like young people.
Yeah.
From 18 to 20, or from maybe 18 to even 28. Before they're married, they're just happy go. I'm here. I'm in the show, baby. I'm on first base.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when you get to second base, that second stage of your life, right? And you're now on second base. What's different about second base?
Gosh, there's a lot. I don't know which way you're going with it, but there's a lot.
In terms of what you can see. Like you have a clear view of what's straight ahead of you.
That's right. The home plate, mountain home plate.
Okay, let's look at that biblically. So now you're in that second stage of life where maybe you're in your 30s or 40s.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay.
You see home. You know it's there.
That's right.
At first base, you're not, when you're 18 or 20, you're going to live forever.
That's right.
Okay? And you're at second base, what are you looking directly at?
David, this is so good, dude. Oh my gosh. Heck yeah, man.
You're looking directly at who?
Yeah, you're looking directly at home. Okay, go ahead.
Third base coach.
Third base coach. Okay, that's right.
So third base coach, typically describe a third base coach.
It's either the skipper, there's somebody high up the food chain. I'll give you that.
How many years typically do they have in the league?
They've been there for a minute.
Wisdom?
Absolutely, a lot of wisdom.
What's their main job?
Their main job is they're basically the quarterback. They're the one that puts on all the plays and controls the offense.
And what's their main job? Where do they want you to get?
Oh, they got to get you home.
There you go.
They got to get you home.
They got to get you home. So if we look at it from a baseball perspective, when you're in that first part of your life, you're just happy to be there. You're in your second part of life, maybe now especially since you have kids, everything changes. Mm-hmm. The minute my daughter came out of the womb, because I was the most narcissistic dude. They called me sleeveless in Seattle because all my sleeves were in a box. I didn't have a shirt with sleeves on it. I'm going to get 20-inch arms. I'm going to get 20-inch arms. The second I see my firstborn daughter, I got to live.
Yep.
I didn't care. It's not about how big my biceps are. What's my pulse? What's my heart rate? What's my cholesterol? Mm-hmm. So when you're in baseball, now you see home. Now you got a vision. Okay, that's where I got to get. You're looking for the third base coach because his only job is to get you home. And when you arrive home, you want to have a clean uniform?
Heck no.
No.
No, I want it filthy.
You want that uniform to be filthy because God's going to say, hey, Nick, my good and faithful servant, you're home. That uniform is dirty. That means you did some sliding. You did some hustling. Amen, brother. Welcome. So I just think there's so much that we can learn both from being turned on, right? And so much we can learn from the ultimate pursuit, the foundational wisdom of the Bible. In other words, I hear a lot of people these days going, it's Jesus it's Jesus but. And I say, no, bro, it's just Jesus. Like, let's not complicate it because it's been tried to be disproved for a long time.
That's right.
And it hasn't been.
That's right.
I look at this. I'm not a smart guy. I can't recite Bible passages to you. But I know Jesus in my heart. And I know when we try and complicate it and we try and think about it too much, he's like, dude, it's just Jesus. Like, let's not overcomplicate it. I mean, he lived as an example. He was a poor carpenter.
Yeah.
If we look at how we're supposed to live our lives, it's right there. And we're never going to achieve it to that level because we're not the Son of God.
Right.
But man, did he put a perfect example out there for us.
Come on. David, I got to, as we bring this episode to a close, I got to give you the final word, man. Like you're all over it today. Like, man, I've had so much fun. The sleeveless in Seattle thing, that is epic, and like I don't know, that's a thing. That's something I got to figure out how to have some fun with that. Like, I don't know if when we see somebody when we're out, we're like, that guy's sleepless in Seattle.
Sleepless in Seattle.
I'm sorry, I was rolling over here on that one.
That's good.
All right, final word, final thought for today's episode.
All right. Sometimes it's easy to get egocentric, even when we know the Lord, even when we say, hey, our goal is to help other people. We live in this body, and so it's easy to get egocentric. So the first thing I want to do is honor you, the host of the show. I want to thank you, Nick. I want to thank you for having me on. Your patience, your intrigue, and everything I said. It's not easy to be a host. I want to thank you for letting me talk about Jesus and the Lord. I want to thank you for your walk.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking about your wife and your kids. It's super important. Thank you for talking about your dad. So I want to honor you first. The second thing is I got to go back to presence. I canceled the first show with you because my mom passed.
Right.
And that was just last week. Days ago. Mm-hmm. And so I have that heaviness on me now. And I was kind of numb when my mom passed because my dad had passed 3 years earlier. Him and I were super close, and he died in my arms in my backyard. I did CPR on my father.
Wow.
And I carried that with me for years.
Yeah.
I spent many times in the ER thinking I was going too. It was a game that it plays on your mind. But now that both my parents have gone and my mom just passed last week, I realized the impact that they had generationally when I watch my daughter, when I watch my cousin, and I watch my nieces and nephews get up there and talk about my mom and dad's marriage. And my mom and dad were married 63 years.
Incredible.
I videotape everything, bro. I'm like you. Everything's on tape, and I've always done it since the days of the big VHS when I was in 8th grade when the equipment was bad. So my mom and dad were healthy. I didn't know either one was going to pass, but I always videotaped them walking hand in hand from behind. We were going in a restaurant. Thank God we have these phones because you can just whip out the phone. Every time I was out with my mom and dad when they were visiting or I was visiting them, and they'd walk into a restaurant or we'd be down a Leaper's Fork walking around, always arm in arm or hand in hand, and they wouldn't know I was taping them. Every time. So when it came time for their funeral, I just put that tape up there and I put a montage of mom and dad all over the country, different seasons, different places, different outfits of them walking hand in hand for 63 years. And I think if I can do one thing, I want to tell people like we got to make marriage dope again.
Come on.
That's in my book. I used to wear this shirt, Hip Hop Dave, make hip hop dope again. And I'm like, in my book, I said, let's make marriage dope again.
Love it.
Like people aren't getting married, and I know it's not easy. I got lucky, but I found her when I wasn't looking. My mom always said, David, you'll find love. Because I was 36 years old, never been married. She said, you'll find her when you don't look. And God said, get your house in order. He said that, not audibly, but in my heart, exactly. I wouldn't talk like that, Nick. I don't say that. I don't talk like that. He said, get your house in order. When I got my house in order and I turned it over to Jesus and I said, I'm not looking, man, did that girl come along. And I tried to get rid of it. And God smacked me upside the head that day and he said, don't be stupid. You know why? Because I had written in my journal, I said, God, you got to send me an angel. This is verbatim.
Wow.
Verbatim. God, you got to send me an angel. It was when I came home from a club one night and I was tired of looking. And I signed that journal and I closed it. So at the worst time of my life, this was a couple months later, at the worst time of my life, my publisher called me and says, you got to do an article on this girl. And I said, what's the story? He goes, she just won a fitness competition. And I go, I know this girl. I know what she looks like. I've seen pictures of her. I go, that's not what I'm looking for. I go, I'm not going to go there because I don't want to. He's like, you're my guy. You got to go. So I went there with my arms folded, not looking at her, thinking this girl is superficial, and I'm just going to do this story. And I asked her a couple questions, and she had a real job. Like I thought she's going to work at a tanning salon, this kind of girl. I'm a manager at a medical device company. Okay. Who's the most important people in her life? Her mom and her dad. Okay. I thought she was going to say like she had a sugar daddy somewhere or something. No, she got a mom and a dad. And then she said, but more than anything, most important person in my life is Jesus. And I said, wow, okay. Now here's the thing, as an athlete, I'm a good writer. I love writing stories, telling stories about people. but I'm not a good speller
Okay.
when it comes to names.
Gotcha.
A couple weeks before that, I misspelled the kid's name who set the state record for points in basketball.
Oh, no.
Parents weren't happy.
Sure.
My publisher wasn't happy.
Sure.
So I look at her and I said, okay, good interview. I go, I got to get your name right. It's Angelique, right? She's like, yeah. And I said, Angelique. And she says, no. She's like, I'm Greek, and there's no Q in the Greek alphabet. She says, my name is spelled Angelike. And to this day, 15 years later, we have people calling our house is angel-like there, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So this is how God works. We're looking for signs. I asked God, send me an angel at my most desperate time. He smacked me upside the head and said, hey, this girl's name is Angel-like. If you mess this up, I don't know how else I can help you. And I tried to mess it up, but she took me to church and she changed the trajectory of my life and my legacy. She changed everything because she used the word. She goes, I could have used sex. I could have used manipulation. I could have used anything that night to get you, David. But I knew that I couldn't convict you with my words or my body. I knew it was only the word of God who was going to convict you. And that thing pierced me immediately.
We
So
have that in
talking
common. Yeah,
what I'm
that's
talking
wild. That is why we have that in common. Dude, thank you for sharing that. That is crazy. Angel-like. That is nuts, man.
exactly how it happened, brother.
You know, a lot of times with God, you get what you ask
Amen.
for. You know what I mean?
I got work to do. I got a lot of work to do.
Finding the right health plan can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Backed by over 12 years of experience and more than 20 national and local awards, Team Hyder is here to help you navigate your options and choose a plan that fits your family's needs and your budget. Visit teamhyder.com today to schedule your consultation and get the coverage that you deserve. Bro, thank you for hanging out today.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, folks, you are welcome. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. Stay blessed.